Okay, so this is the Daf Yomi, Avodah Zarah, Daf 44. Excuse me. So at the end of 43, we have in the Gemara, it is taught in a Baraita to Sefta 316 of Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Yoshi said to them, but isn't it already stated, and your sin, now we're in Daf 44, and your sin, the calf that you had made, I took and burned it with fire and beat it in pieces, grinding it very small until it was fine as dust, and I cast its dust into the brook that descended out of the mount. Deuteronomy 9:21. So Moses, who ground up the idolatrous golden calf and dispersed its dust, was apparently unconcerned with the fact that it may fertilize the soil. The rabbi said to him, you seek to bring proof from there? Doesn't it state in the verse, quote, and he took the calf that he had made and burned it with fire, ground it to powder, and strewed it upon the water, and made the children of Israel drink of it. Exodus 32:20. So Moses ground up the calf, intending only to inspect them like Sota women. So like a woman suspected by her husband of having been unfaithful. Such a woman is compelled to drink water containing the ground up ink from a scroll of the Torah passages relating to a Sota woman, which causes her to die if she was unfaithful, and exonerates her and bestows blessings upon her if she was faithful. Similarly, Moses ground up the calf in order to compel the people to drink, to cause the guilty parties to die. Okay, so Rabbi Yoshi said to them, but isn't it already stated concerning Asa? And he also, quote, and he also removed Ma'akah, his mother, from being queen because she had made an abominable image for an Asherah. And Asa cut down her image and burned it in the Kidron River. 1 Kings 15:13. It seems that Asa was unconcerned that the ground-up idol may provide fertilization. They said to him, you seek to bring proof from there? The Kidron River does not grow vegetation, so even if the idol would have fertilized the soil, it would have been of no benefit. Okay, the Gemara asks, and does the Kidron River not grow vegetation? But isn't it taught in a Mishnah, Yoma 58b? This remainder of blood from the external altar and that remainder of blood from the inner altar and mixed in the temple courtyard drained beneath the altar, and they flow out with the water used to rinse the area to the Kidron River. And this water is sold to gardeners for use as fertilizer. And I think that's also in Tractate Midot. So the Mishnah continues. That's where it's detailing the temple structure, and it actually defines like that passageway where the blood would flow out. Okay, so the Mishnah continues. The gardeners pay for this water and thereby desacralize it, and failure to do so would render them liable for misuse of consecrated property. This is explicit proof that the Kidron River does yield produce. The Gemara answers, there are different places in the Kidron River area. There is a place that grows vegetation. There is a place that does not grow vegetation. The Gemara tangentially inquires about the meaning of a word in the verse quoted above. What is the meaning of miflatzta? So that would be an abominable image. So Rav Yehuda says it means an object that intensifies or mafli, licentiousness, or leitzan uta. As Rabbi Yosef teaches, Ma'akah fashioned upon the idol the likeness of a male organ, and she would engage in activity with it daily. So the Baraita continues, Rabbi Yoshi attempts to cite another proof that grinding an object of idol worship is sufficient from Hezekiah's destruction of Moses' serpent, which was worshipped by the Jewish people in Hezekiah's time. So Rabbi Yoshi said to them, but isn't it already stated, and he broke into pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made, as until those days the children of Israel sacrificed to it, 2 Kings 18:4. This indicates that breaking an object of idol worship into pieces suffices. So the rabbi said to him, you seek to bring a proof from there? Doesn't it state in the verse, quote, and the Lord said to Moses, make you a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when he sees it, shall live. Numbers 21, verse 8. The term make you is interpreted to mean that the Lord commanded Moses, make the serpent from your property. Consequently, the serpent belonged to Moses, and the principle in such a case is that a person does not render forbidden an item that is not his. So therefore, despite worshiping the serpent, the Jewish people could not render it for a forbidden object of idol worship, and by right, it was not necessary to demolish it there. So rather, despite the fact that the serpent did not have the halakhic status of an object of idol worship, since Hezekiah saw that the Jewish people were straying after it, he arose and demolished it. Nevertheless, since this demolishing was not done in order to fulfill the obligation to eradicate objects of idol worship, but merely to prevent its worship, breaking it into pieces was sufficient. So Rabbi Yoshi said to the rabbis, cited another proof for his opinion, but isn't it already stated, quote, and they left their images there, and David and his men took them away. So 2 Samuel 5:21. And from where may it be inferred that the meaning of this formulation, Vayisa'em David, is winnowing. So that is scattering in the wind. It is as Rav Yosef translates the verse, Tizrem Veruach Tisaem. So Isaiah 41:16. And we translate it as follows: you shall fan them, and the wind shall carry them away. Apparently, this way of disposing of idolatrous objects is sufficient. The rabbi said to him, you seek to bring a proof from there? Doesn't it state with regard to the same incident? And they left their gods there, and David gave an order, and they were burned with fire. 1 Chronicles 14:12. And from the fact that it is not written here, and they burned them, Vayisa'em, learn from it that the word Vayisa'em is not referring to scattering in the wind, but rather it should be understood literally. That is, David and his men took their idols away, and it does not mean that they demolished and scattered them. The Gemara asks, in any case, the verses contradict each other. The two accounts with regard to David's disposal of the idols seem inconsistent. One states that his men took them away or scattered them, while the other recounts that they burned them. The Gemara answers in accordance with the resolution of Rav Huna, as Rav Huna raises a contradiction between the verses as follows. It is written, quote, and they left their gods there, and David gave an order, and they were burned with fire. So 1 Chronicles 14:12. And it is also written, quote, and David and his men took them away. 2 Samuel 5:21. So Rav Huna answers, it is not difficult. In the interim, Ittai, the Gittite, who was a Gentile, arrived, and David commanded him to revoke the idolatrous status of idols, as only Gentiles are capable of doing this. Here, the verse that states that they burned the idols describes their actions before Ittai the Gittite came, whereas there, the verse that indicates that they simply carried them away is referring to after Ittai the Gittite came and revoked their status as objects of idol worship, obviating the need to burn them. So another difficulty is resolved by Ittai's arrival, as it is written with regard to the Ammonite idol. And he took the crown of Malcham from off his head, and its weight was a talent of gold. And in it were precious stones, and it was set on David's head. 2 Samuel 12:30. But is it permitted for David to wear the crown? Isn't it an object of idol worship, and therefore under the category of items from which driving benefit is prohibited? So Rav Nachman says Ittai the Gittite arrived and revoked its status as an object of idol worship. The Gemara discusses David's crown. The verse states, and its weight was a talent of gold. As a talent is a very heavy weight, the Gemara asks, how could David place it on his head? So Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, what is meant is not that it was actually placed on his head, but rather that it was fit to rest on David's head. That is, it fit the size of his head. Given a different answer, Rabbi Yoshi, son of Rabbi Hanina, says there was a lodestone in it that would hold it up, that is, from which it was suspended. So David sat, so that would be like almost like magnetics. David sat and placed his head in it, giving the appearance that he was wearing it. So Rabbi Elazar says, what is meant is not that it weighed a full talent of gold, but rather that there was a precious stone in it, or on it, that was worth a talent of gold. Okay. The Gemara asks with regard to the verse, quote, this I have had as I have kept your precepts. Psalms 119:56. What is it saying? The Gemara answers that this is what the verse is saying. As reward for the fact that I kept your precepts, this crown was a testimony for me that I am fit to be king. What exactly was its testimony? Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, it was that David would place the crown on his head on the spot where one dones phylacteries, and it fit him perfectly. The Gemara asks, how could he have worn the crown? Wasn't he required to don phylacteries? So Rabbi Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak says, there is enough space on the part of the head that is fit for doning phylacteries for one to don 2 phylacteries. So that would be kind of like the 2 types, like Rabbeinu Tam and your standard tefillin. So similarly, it is stated with regard to Yoash, then they brought out the king's son and put upon him the crown and the testimony and made him king. 2 Chronicles 23:11. So Nezer is a crown. What is the testimony? So the Edut. So Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, it is a testimony for the progeny of the house of David that anyone who is fit for kingship, the crown fits him properly, and anyone who is unfit for kingship, the crown does not fit him properly. Similarly, the verse states, now Adoniah, son of Haggit, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. So Rav Yehuda says that Rav says the term exalted himself teaches that he sought to have the crown fit him, but it did not fit him. The verse continues, and he prepared for himself chariots and riders and 50 people to run before him. 1 Kings 1:5. The Gemara asks, what is the novelty of these actions, since other wealthy people do the same? Even if they are not the sons of kings, wealthy people do, So wealthy people do the same, even if they are not the sons of kings with designs on the throne. It is taught in a Braita that what was unique was that the runners all had their spleens removed and had the soles of their feet hollowed. Flesh from their feet was removed, and these 2 procedures enhanced their speed. The Mishnah says, a wise Gentile, Proclus ben Plospus. Did I get that right? Proclus ben Plospus. Once asked a question of Rabban Gamliel in the city of Akko when he was bathing in the bathhouse of the Greek god Aphrodite. So Proclus said to him, it is written in your Torah, and nothing of the prescribed items shall cleave to your hand. Deuteronomy 13:18. For what reason do you bathe before an idol in the bathhouse of Aphrodite? So, Rabban Gamliel said to him, one may not answer questions related to Torah in the bathhouse. Okay, and when he left the bathhouse, Rabban Gamliel gave him several answers. He said to him, I did not come into its domain, it came into my domain. The bathhouse existed before the status dedicated to Aphrodite was erected. Furthermore, people do not say, let us make a bathhouse as an adornment for Aphrodite. Rather, they say, let us make a statue of Aphrodite as an adornment for the bathhouse. Therefore, the main structure is not the Aphrodite statue, but the bathhouse. Rabban Gamliel continued, alternatively, there is another answer. Even if people would give you a lot of money, you would not enter before your object of idol worship naked, or as one who experienced an emission, who comes to the bathhouse to purify himself, or nor would you urinate before it. This statue stands upon the sewage pipe, and all the people urinate before it. There is no prohibition in this case, as it is stated in the verse, only, quote, their gods, Deuteronomy 12:2, which indicates that a statue that people treat as a deity is forbidden, but one that people do not treat with the respect that is due to a deity is permitted. So now the Gemara says, the Mishnah relates that Rabban Gamliel first told Proclus that he cannot answer a question related to Torah in a bathhouse. So the Gemara asks, and how could he have acted in this manner? How could Rabban Gamliel have stated even this halacha in the bathhouse? But doesn't Rabbi Bar Bar Chana say that Rabbi Yochanan says it is permitted to contemplate matters of Torah everywhere except for the bathhouse and the bathroom? And if you would say that Rabban Gamliel stated this ruling to him in a secular language, and therefore it was permitted for him to do so, this would not be a satisfactory answer. But doesn't Abai say that it is permitted to say secular statements in a bathhouse or bathroom in the sacred tongue, Hebrew? But is it prohibited to say sacred Torah-related statements even in a secular language in a bathhouse or bathroom? The Gemara answers that the Mishnah actually taught as follows. When he left the bathhouse, Rabban Gamliel said to him, one may not answer questions related to Torah in the bathhouse. So Rav Chama Bar Yosef, the distinguished, says that Rabbi Oshaya says, Rabban Gamliel gave a deceptive response to that officer, Proclus, and I, Rav Chama, say that the response was not deceptive but truthful. The Gemara explains, what was its deception? According to Rabbi Oshaya, it was that Rabban Gamliel said to him, this statue stands upon the sewage pipe and all people urinate before it. In saying this, Rabban Gamliel meant that the statue has no idolatrous status, as is evident from the demeaning conduct performed before it. And this claim is deceptive, as even if one urinates before it, what of it? Does that really negate its idolatrous status? But doesn't Rava say that the idol of Peor, or Baal Peor, proves the contrary, as its worshippers defecate before it daily, and its idolatrous status still is not revoked? So Rav Chama Bar Yosef himself disagrees. And I say that it is not a deceptive answer. With regard to that idol, Peor, its standard manner of worship is in that manner, therefore its status is certainly not revoked by that behavior. But with regard to this statue, Aphrodite, its standard manner of worship is not in that manner, therefore the display of demeaning conduct in its presence is indicative of a lack of reverence for it and its lack of idolatrous status. So Abaye said the deception in Rabban Gamliel's response was from here, when he said to him, I did not come into its domain, but rather it came into my domain. He explains, and even if it, the bathhouse, had come into its domain, what of it? Even if the idol had preceded the bathhouse, it would still not render use of the bathhouse prohibited. But didn't we learn in a Mishnah, with regard to an object of idol worship, that has a bathhouse or a garden in front of it? One may derive benefit from the bathhouse or garden without showing favor, by giving thanks or payment to its priest, but one may not derive benefit from it whilst showing its favor. So Rabban Gamliel's answer was therefore deceptive, because the permissibility of using the bathhouse had nothing to do with its antecedents to the statue. Okay, so Rav Chama Bar Yosef himself disagrees, and I say that it is not a deceptive answer, as even though Rabban Gamliel visited the bathhouse without showing favor by expressing thanks or giving payment, the very fact that such an esteemed visitor paid it a visit is the equivalence of others actively showing favor. Okay. Rav Shimi Bar Chia says, the deception in Rabban Gamliel's response was from here. When he said to him, this statue stands upon the sewage pipe and all people urinate before it, he explains that, and if people urinate before it, what of it? That does not indicate a lack of idolatrous status, but didn't we learn in a Mishnah, 53a, if one spit in front of it, urinated in front of it, dragged it, or threw feces at it, its status as an object of idol worship is not revoked. So Rav Chama Bar Yosef himself disagrees. And I say that it is not a deceptive answer. There, the case of that Mishnah is of one who temporarily rages against the idol and afterward he appeases it. Here, in the case of Aphrodite statue erected on the sewage pipe, each and every hour the statue remains in a constant state of disparagement. So this setup indicates a permanent lack of reverence and an absence of true idolatrous status. So Rabbi Bar Ula said, the deception in Rabban Gamliel's response was from here, when he said to him, the people do not say, let us make a bathhouse for an adornment for Aphrodite. Rather, they say, let us make a statue of Aphrodite as an adornment for the bathhouse. He explains, and even if people say, let us make a bathhouse as an adornment for Aphrodite, what of it? But isn't it taught in a Braita in the case of one who says, this house is hereby dedicated to idol worship, or this cup is hereby dedicated to idol worship? He has said nothing, that is, his words take no effect, as there is no halacha of consecration with regard to objects of idol worship. So while one can consecrate an item to the temple through verbal dedication, there is no such method for according idolatrous status to an object. Therefore, Rabban Gamliel's deception lies in his indication that such a formulation would render the bathhouse forbidden as an object of idol worship. Okay, so Rav Chama Bar Yosef himself disagrees, and I say that it is not a deceptive answer. Although the bathhouse would not be rendered forbidden as an object of idol worship due to a verbal designation, it would at least have the status of an adornment of an object of idol worship, which is also forbidden. And that is the end of Daf 44. Thanks for watching.